Thank you for joining Wars of the Rosies as we continue with part 17 of the Genius of Freemasonry by J.D. Buck. The balance of power. Money today in this country holds the balance of power. Our national divinity is Mammon. By the balance of power is meant any principle, agency, or influence that is capable of influencing the trend of events, shaping the policy of the nation, or controlling the activities of the majority of the people. As a country at large, our financial and commercial prosperity is unprecedented. Money is massed by millions in the hands of comparatively few individuals. This money has been gathered in a comparatively short time in manufacturing, trade, transportation, and by utilizing discoveries in the arts and sciences. Many gigantic fortunes have been made by watering stocks and giving fictitious values to assets of corporations, and yet so rapidly has been the growth in all directions that even these fictitious values have often been realized and made good by the growth of industries. The agencies and representatives of these immense money interests have shaped legislation, organized and consolidated their wealth, and often pooled their interest for mutual profits. Hence there has arisen a centralization of the money power far beyond the interest of the country or of the whole people. The people are said to be the governing power in a republic, and whenever this power is centered in one or in a few individuals, no matter under what name or pretext, the welfare of the people as a whole is jeopardized. Coincident with this rapid accumulation of wealth has been the growth of great cities, and hence has grown up another agency for centralization of power. The representatives of great fortunes, concentrated in these large cities, have realized their dependence upon the state legislators, which make laws for cities, and have influenced, controlled, bought, or exploited them accordingly. At present, the general government is taking a hand in endeavoring to check these abuses, but this is likely in the end to prove a still more dangerous centralization of power, even though the measures proposed may seem a pressing necessity and appeal to the people as justified under present conditions. The remedy is very simple. It lies in a direct appeal to the people, in a restoration of power to the source of its creation, the people themselves. They really have the power, but they have been tricked out of it by laws, usages, customs, and abuses that have grown up with the increase of wealth and population. The remedy here lies directly and specifically in what is known as the initiative and referendum. The purpose here, however, is not to discuss politics, but rather to illustrate the principles that dominate society, shape public policy, and so involve the well-being of every citizen as well as every Mason. In its last analysis, the balance of power lies in the will, the intelligence, the strength, and the influence of the majority of the citizens at any given time. True, a single individual may so appeal to or influence this people of a city or a nation as to control the majority. Such an appeal would have to be made in a form that seems at least to promise general benefits to all concerned. The appeal would here be to the self-interest of the majority, hence a promise or a prospect of securing peace, higher wages, greater prosperity, and the like, would meet with response in proportion to the confidence in or reasonableness of the man or the measures proposed. Tyrants, despots, rulers, and those greedy for power in all ages have resisted the necessity and avoided as far as possible any appeal to the people at all, so long as it was admitted that they had heretical rights belonging only to the few, or the claim was admitted that they ruled by the grace of God. The people were never taken into counsel. With the increase of intelligence and the growth of civilization, the grace of God, hereditary prerogatives, and special privilege have slowly disappeared till in democratic countries and would-be republics they are denied altogether. Hence the money power, as above referred to, has usurped their place and equally exploited the people. In the meantime, there is still another source of power by which the people may be exploited and the majority ruled. That is, the appeal to ignorance, superstition, and fear. In a republican form of government, where votes count, if the influence of wealth can be added to that of superstition and fear, the strongest possible combination is secured for exploiting the many in the interest of the few through the control of votes. In such a case, it is not necessary that the majority of the whole people at any time should be so exploited. If, for example, a solid vote of any 2 million electors can be secretly counted on and directed by one head, regardless of all political issues or parties, by shifting that vote in any general direction and by compromising on minor questions in order to secure special aims or results, the party so controlling the 2 million votes would hold the balance of power as securely as any despot ever held the reins of government. This is precisely what the Pope of Rome, through his agencies and minions, is doing in America today. No free people, no democracy, no real republic will ever get rid of this question of the balance of power. It is inevitable in the nature of things and organic in all human associations. This is not only proven by all history, but demonstrated every day by organizations such as the Dowieites and Eddyites, and hundreds of communities all over the country. People are appealed to, organized, dominated, or exploited by an idea, by some real or fancied gain, by some promise or expectation held out by an individual or represented by an idea. If then this balance of power cannot be gotten rid of, the question is, for what purpose shall it be used and who shall hold it? Suppose this influential factor could be divested of all personal ambitions, all selfish interests, aims, or ends whatsoever, and held solely for the common good of all alike. This would constitute it a sacred trust, an influence for civilization, the uplift of humanity as a whole. This is by no means inconceivable. It is altogether rational, provided the 2 million voters, as before, held the balance of power and used it for this purpose and in this way, not, however, dominated by any one individual, but by a grand idea, say the Golden Rule, or the genuine principle of brotherhood based on common needs and inspired by a common duty. Can anyone fail to see here a great opportunity? Now we have in this country today over 2 million voters who are Freemasons. Every one of them has given his voluntary assent and pledged his allegiance to precisely this grand idea, viz., the common, unqualified, and universal brotherhood of man. True, they belong as individuals to different political parties, to different religions, or they profess no religion at all. They are found in every trade, occupation, or line of reputable business and in every walk of life. Can they urge self-interest or indifference to their obligations as an excuse for ignoring all their solemn obligations as men and Masons? If every one of them adhered to his obligation and did his duty, would they not hold today the balance of power? No such appeal can be made elsewhere to any such body of men for the reason that it nowhere else exists. Organization into a body of voters is neither desirable nor contemplated. Masonry as an institution has no business in politics. Masons as individuals regarding their obligations, adhering to their principles, and doing their duty is another proposition entirely. Can anyone who has once been a Mason and assumed their obligations give a single reason why he should not discharge them? Was there in any case mental reservation or secret evasion of mind? Or was it provided and determined that there should be whole-souled and unequivocal assent to every obligation assumed? If this be true, and I challenge any regular Mason to deny it, let him not suggest that I am reading into Masonry any new or foreign interpretation. Let any brother Mason contemplate for a moment how he would feel if he could realize that he was one of a body of 2 million voters who had held the balance of power in a recent election, and by standing solely for equity, justice, and right, had turned the tide against usurpation and wrong. Would he not feel as he always does when he has done his whole duty as a man, with clean hands, a warm heart, and an approving conscience? Would he find in his heart any cause for shame or regret? Now, my brother, some one individual, some body of men, some principle, or some idea always does and always will hold the balance of power in this country. Who shall it be, and for what purpose? Only the man who has no principles and recognizes no obligation can truthfully say, I do not care. At the present moment, this balance of power in America is held by an Italian who has condemned every one of our free institutions, for he enforces and confirms the decrees of his predecessors. He has the most colossal, compact, powerful, and secret organization on earth today. The College of Cardinals are his ministers of state, and the Order Jesuits are his secret minions and emissaries. The Italian despot has the pledged allegiance of every bishop, priest, and communicant in America. He proposes to use a solid Catholic vote to make America Catholic, destroy every one of our free institutions, make the Catholic religion the religion of the state to the exclusion of all other religions, and he, the infallible Pope, become the dictator of this government. He holds today in this country the balance of power for this avowed purpose and pledges to this end. No use saying he cannot do it. He is doing it, and slowly but surely accomplishing his purpose. Read Facing the 20th Century and see. The only question is, at what point are we going to call a halt? Shall it be now or after every one of our free institutions has been undermined by Jesuity, and nothing but a religious civil war will enable us to regain our freedom? No Freemason can escape this issue, this impending crisis, nor his personal responsibility regarding it. Why this special appeal to Freemasons? Simply because they constitute the only body of men in the world pledged from beginning to end to the reverse of every precept and principle in the policy of the Roman Pontiff. If these fail to do their duty, what are we to expect from others? This balance of power is like the ballast of a great ship. If allowed to shift around in a disorderly way, it may help to sink the ship. But shifted wisely and judiciously, when the ship rolls or is in danger, it helps to right it and secure safety. 2 million Catholic voters, and this is a very low estimate, under the control of one dictator, held by superstition and fear to the dogma of obedience and obeying blindly regardless of all else, is a most dangerous menace indeed. Freed from this dogma of obedience and this exploitation, the Catholic citizen and voter deserves no criticism, but masked, dominated, and exploited. These voters add nothing to the prosperity and perpetuity of our country. On the contrary, they are a shifting ballast and a dead weight that may sink our ship of state at any time. They not only do nothing to conserve our liberties, but are constantly used to annul and undermine them. One of their strongest points of attack is our free secular schools. These they everywhere seek to undermine and destroy, and to substitute for them the inefficient, sectarian parochial school. Notwithstanding the hostility of the Pope and his representatives everywhere expressed toward our free schools, in the cities of Chicago and Boston, more than 2/3 of the teachers in the public schools are Catholics. These teachers, as good Catholics, are the avowed enemies of the very schools in which they are employed to teach. Anyone innocent enough to see no design back of this condition of things had better read the history of the Jesuits and the double doctrine of the Church of Rome. They might supplement these with Father Crowley's The Parochial School. If we should read of these things in the history of some ancient republic, showing how it went to pieces or was converted to a form of absolute despotism, we would feel indignation. But this is the very history we are making in this country today, when Catholics get in other cities and in this country at large what they already have done in Chicago and Boston. Our free schools will be a thing of the past. The parochial school will have taken their place. The dogma of obedience will be drilled into every youth of the land by the dark sons of Loyola, who long ago declared, "Give us the education of the child for the first 7 years, and we care not what follows." Now, for the peace and perpetuity of this republic, it is necessary to neutralize this balance of power that is already in the hands of clericalism. This can be done only by opposing to it continually not only an equal number, who can be equally relied upon to oppose all such ambitions and exploitation of the ignorant masses. This opposition must be by voluntary impulse from individuals who realize the danger and the necessity of eternal vigilance regarding the common danger, and with whom the sense of civic duty and personal responsibility is sufficiently strong to keep them constantly active. The only sufficient body of men who, from their voluntary obligation and intelligence along these lines, could be expected to do this work is the Order of Freemasons. True, they will find many assistants and cooperators, for which they will be fraternally grateful. Chief among these is the Junior Order of United American Merchants, who realize the danger and are already active in neutralizing it. The object is not to create hatred and strife, but to prevent unjust legislation and injury to our free institutions. In the long run, the rank and file of our opponents will really be benefited more than any other. Their eyes will eventually be open to the real character of their dictators and the injustice done to them under the name and garb of religion. This will result in forcing them from the degrading bondage of superstition and fear, whereupon they will bless their liberties and join with them, as in France and Italy they are now doing. If we are ever to realize an ideal republic composed of every people, kindred, and tongue, where justice shall reign and be secured to all, it will have to be built up slowly and at some sacrifice from all. Freemasons ought to be foremost in realizing all this. They should do their utmost in promoting it. As elsewhere indicated, peace on earth and goodwill to men will never be realized except on the basis of ethics and economics. In the absence of universal justice in all secular affairs, a universal religion can only be inaugurated through force or Jesuitry. Clericalism has invariably employed both, and the more they succeeded, the less religion there is, and the further we are from peace and justice. Secure in these, universal religion will be already here. The most helpful sign of the times is the fact that the interest in and discussion of ethical and economic problems was never so great as today, except in the rigid conformity and obedience of Roman Catholicism in attending churches, The real interest in churches and so-called religion has steadily decreased as interest in ethical and economical problems has increased. Those who represent the latter now hold the balance of power instead of those who represent so-called religion. This means that a new basis for religion was determined by the people. First become reconciled to thy brother. First be just, equitable, and right, and then offer thy adoration to deity. The reign of the Christ can only come after economical justice. Before this, he brings a sword. The religion of unjust men has never been a fetish or Moloch, according to their political power. The union of church and state has never once in the history of man failed to enthrone Moloch and to exploit, rob, and murder the people in the name of religion. Political parties, religions, theories of government, institutions of all kind are on trial. They will be sifted to the last analysis and tried by the law of use and the greatest good to the whole of mankind. There can be no lasting concealment, no lasting evasion of this law. Freemasonry can claim no exception and seeks no evasion. Take the lowest estimate that the most ignorant and superficial Mason may put upon the order, viz., that of a merely social organization for the purpose of securing a good time. If that were admitted, then we would have to explain the necessity of having the Bible on the altar, of invoking the name of deity, and of otherwise profaning the most holy things. The bacchanal of barbarians could go little further. The Judicial Congress added only lust and profligacy. No man was ever prepared and qualified and made first a Mason in his heart who does not know that such an estimate of Freemasonry is not only a profane caricature, but a wicked lie. If any Mason, so-called, holds it, he should hide his head in shame. It is solely the creation of his own heart and depraved imagination. And so Masonry itself is on trial. Like all other institutions of man, what can it offer for the education of the people? How does it deal with ethics and economics? What does it offer for the commonwealth? What can it add to the commonwealth? In the day that is dawning, every Mason will be compelled to answer these pertinent questions. Why not answer them now and array ourselves on the side of liberty, fraternity, and light, and so hold and use the balance of power? Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment. And if you can, please consider donating to Wars of the Roses. Links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. Thank you so very much.